Okay. Sorry. I swear. Yeah. Hi. We were just talking about the water fountain for the cats. Anyway. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back. I realized I was a little late getting some of these videos up, but I'm getting caught up now. Thank you. I was traveling. Y'all are a virtual class, so you may not realize this, but week before last, I was out of town for a philosophy conference. I presented a paper. It went very well. People seemed to like it. And then I got sick um, because I traveled through a bunch of airports and met a whole bunch of people at a conference. So, and I'm not young anymore. So yeah, I fell a little bit behind. But uh, this is the video for Ring 7, the Williamson on Knowledge and Belief paper, and that is the first paper for which you'll have a reading response due. I will be posting the assignment turn in thing for that ASAP, so don't you worry, it's coming. Um, anyway, if, by the way, if at some point in the future, some future class is watching this, this is from late September, mid September of 2024. So if this is not late September or mid September 2024, then none of that applies to you. Sorry. I guess no. Okay. Anyway. No. I could start over, but I'm just going to roll with this. Why not? All right. Um, okay. Timothy Williamson on Knowledge and Belief. All right, hopefully you've read the paper. It always helps when you've actually read the papers because it's not going to be. I can't just walk you through the paper bit by bit. The lectures are meant to illuminate the papers, not replace them. So if you haven't read the paper, please read it. I get that sometimes you may want to read the paper first and then watch the video, or watch the video and then read the paper, but please definitely make sure you do both. Um, that's what you're here for. Um, it's just part of the process. Anyway, so in this paper, Williamson is trying to uh, pull apart uh, the ideas of knowledge and belief in an effort to understand what knowledge is. That's where we're beginning our journey for this semester. We're going to start trying to answer the question of what knowledge is. Um, and so before we get into the paper proper, um, we need to clear up a couple of things. We need to sort of get clear on what the question we're even asking is. It's easy enough to say, what does it mean to know? What is knowledge? That's easy. The problem is that knowledge, when I use the word know, like I know 2 plus 2 equals 4. I know where my car keys are. I know how to tie my shoes. I know a guy named Alex. Um, the problem is I'm using the word know in different ways. So when I ask what knowledge is, it's not immediately clear that that question can be answered. It's not immediately clear that there's one answer for all of those uses the word know. Um, so let's clarify that first. Um, things like I know 2 plus 2 equals 4. I know that Oklahoma City is the capital of Oklahoma. I know um, I know that my car keys are sitting on the video shelf near the door. Um, these are these are knowledge, when I say I know that, what I mean is I know a fact. What I know there is I know something that can be expressed in terms of a proposition. Um, all right, hang on a sec. I know something that can be expressed in terms of a proposition. Okay, are we back? I don't. Okay, yeah, sorry. I had to pause that briefly. So, knowledge of that can be expressed in the form of a statement like 2 plus 2 equals 4. My keys are on the video shelf near the door. The Taco Bell on 11th Avenue is open 24 hours. Things like that. That is one sense of the word know. To know that is to know, like, to know a proposition is what we call it. Um, so that is propositional knowledge. A proposition is a sentence of the kind that can be true or false. Like the Taco Bell on 11th is open 24 hours. That's a proposition. Now, there's two parts to that definition. There's two parts to that definition. The first part is it has to be a sentence. So something like, huh? Or ouch. Those aren't sentences. Those are interjections, and those are not propositions, of course. Um, or sad, not a proposition. Um, not a sentence. But it also has to be, a proposition also has to be a sentence of the kind that can be true or false. Which means that it rules out sentences of the kind that can't be true or false. In other words, most prominently, questions. Questions are sentences. Do you want to go to the mall? That is a sentence. That is a complete sentence. Um, that's not that's not a kind of sentence that can be true or false, though. Do you want to go to the mall? Can't be true or false. The answer to it can be. Like I can say, yes, I want to go to the mall. That's an answer to that question, and maybe it's false. Maybe I'm just saying, yes, I want to go to the mall, and I don't really want to go. So that can be true or false. But a question itself cannot be true or false. It's just a question. There are other types of complete sentences um, that can't be true or false. We don't need to worry about those right now. Questions are the most prominent ones. So a proposition is expressed in a sentence that can be true or false. So note that a proposition does not have to be true. That's why I have avoided characterizing a proposition as a fact. Um, like, I don't want to say a proposition is a fact because a proposition can be false. Um, Tulsa is the capital of Oklahoma City, or Oklahoma. Tulsa is the capital of Oklahoma, is a proposition. It's false, but it is a proposition. It is a sentence, and it is the kind of sentence that can be true or false. In this case, it's false. But it is a sentence that is in the form of something that can be true or false. Um, Propositions, broadly speaking, are statements about the world. They say things about the world we live in, about the universe that we live in. Um, even if the thing it says is ultimately something subjective, like I like chocolate, is still a proposition. You may say, oh, but that's subjective. It's not true or false. No, it is true or false. When I say I like chocolate, it's true. For most of you, if you say I like chocolate, it's true. Some of you, if you say I like chocolate, it's false. Um, because that's just some of you don't like chocolate, which I find weird, but that's okay. You. Um, it's not. That doesn't mean that. Oh well, it's not true or false. It's just different for everybody. No, if I say I like chocolate, that's true. If you say I like chocolate, I don't know if it's true or not. It depends on you. That's just like me saying I'm 50 years old. And you're like, stop, you don't look it. I'm like, thank you. Now, if I say I'm 50 years old, at the time of recording this video, that's true. If I say it next year, it's false. Um, so, there you go. Um, okay, so, even when a proposition is reporting on something where the truth and falsity is subjective depending upon who is uttering the proposition, it's still the kind of thing that can be true or false. Okay. Alright, so hopefully you're clear on what a proposition is. So propositional knowledge is just when you know something that can be expressed as a proposition. And most people will say this is knowing a fact. That's a loose way of talking about it. We'll get into that in a second. But you know a proposition. Okay. But there are other uses of the word know. For instance, I know my mom pretty well. I know my mom pretty well. I know my friend Alex pretty well. I don't really know any of you. Like I know I have a student named, whatever, right? Whatever your name is. I've looked at the roll, the class roll. So I can have propositional knowledge about your name. But I wouldn't say I know you. But that's obviously not the same kind of use of the word know as propositional knowledge. When I say I know my friend Alex, but I don't know you, I'm not talking about a fact. Like when I say I know my friend Alex, I don't mean I know I have a friend named Alex. That's a proposition. That is a piece of propositional knowledge, and I do know that. I know I have a friend named Alex. That is a proposition, and I have that propositional knowledge. That's not what I mean. That's not what I'm referring to when I say I know Alex. I know him pretty well. It's not the kind of thing I'm referring to when I say I don't know you. What I'm talking about there is what we will call, or what we can call, acquaintance knowledge. Acquaintance knowledge requires a first-hand experience of something. That alone makes it different from propositional knowledge. For instance, I can give you propositional knowledge that has to do with something you have no first-hand experience of. I can tell you René Descartes, the 16th century French philosopher, did not like animals. Okay, René Descartes, 16th century French philosopher, did not like animals. Congratulations, you have a piece of propositional knowledge. Do you have any acquaintance knowledge of René Descartes? No! He's dead! And he's been dead for a long time. I don't have any acquaintance knowledge of René Descartes. I never met the man. I'm not immortal. It's been mentioned I'm only 50. That's old. It's not that old. René Descartes. I don't have any acquaintance knowledge of him. I do have acquaintance knowledge of my friend Alex. I know him. I know his moods. I know his expressions. I know his little jokes. I know stuff about him. And that acquaintance knowledge may consist of I may be able to pull out some propositional knowledge from that acquaintance knowledge. I may be able to use that acquaintance knowledge as the basis for certain kinds of propositional knowledge, but they are not the same thing. Like for instance, I might be able to say, my friend Alex likes horror movies. That is propositional knowledge. Um, that is a proposition. And now you have it. I can give propositional knowledge to you by telling it to you. I can tell you the proposition, and you can say, oh, now I know that. I know that fact. I know that thing that can be expressed in a proposition. Dr. Black's friend Alex likes horror movies. Um, and I know that proposition. But I got that proposition, I sort of pulled it out, if you will, I pulled it out of the acquaintance knowledge. Um, my acquaintance knowledge may include or allow me to derive a bunch of propositions about Alex, but it isn't, it's more than that. There's more to it than that. Um, Here's a good way to illustrate this. Let's think about the taste of something. I keep talking about chocolate and food. Maybe I'm just hungry, but anyway. How about sushi? Now, if you have never had sushi, and some of you haven't, I'm sure. If you've never had sushi, you might know facts about it. You might know propositions about sushi. If you have had sushi, you may be able to communicate those propositions to someone else. You can talk about the texture and the flavor and things like that. But even if you sat there and talked about every proposition you could think of that helped describe the taste of sushi to someone, at the end of the day, when you've described it thoroughly, have they tasted sushi? No, obviously not. They have no first-hand experience with the taste of sushi. Uh, they may know a lot about the taste of sushi. They may know a lot of propositions from you about the taste of sushi, but they don't actually have that taste. You don't know until you know. You had to be there, kind of. That's sort of what we're driving at with acquaintance knowledge. Um, I can tell you a lot about it, but telling you about it is never going to get you to the acquaintance knowledge, to the experience of it. So, and that alone illustrates the gap between the propositions that can be derived from acquaintance knowledge and the acquaintance knowledge itself. The fact that I can give you a book's worth of propositions about the taste of sushi, and even after you've read it, you still haven't experienced the taste of sushi. That there's that gap between the propositional knowledge and the acquaintance knowledge. Okay, so that's another use of the word know. I know that 2 plus 2 equals 4, propositional knowledge. I know the taste of sushi, acquaintance knowledge. Um, okay, the last way that we use the word know is to describe like something you know how to do. Like, I know how to get to work. I know how to I know how to tie my shoes. I know how to cook a beef stew. I know how to do laundry. Whatever. This is referred to as procedural knowledge or how-to knowledge. And it is also different from acquaintance knowledge or propositional knowledge. Procedural knowledge depends in a way on both of them. Because any time you're talking about a procedure of any sort, like I know how to cook beef stew. That requires me to know certain propositions. Like, how do you turn on, here's how you turn on the crock pot. I know that I'm supposed to add a cup of water. Once I got the beef and the vegetables and everything in there, I add a cup of water before I turn it on. I know that. That's a proposition. I'm supposed to add a cup of water before I turn on the crock pot. That's a proposition. It can be true or false. If I thought the proposition was, if the proposition I had in my head was I'm supposed to add 4 cups of water before I turn on the crock pot, it would be false. That's wrong. I'm supposed to add 1 cup of water. So procedural knowledge includes some propositional knowledge, but it also includes some acquaintance knowledge, because there's a certain element of practice, of practical familiarity that you have to have before you can be said to really know how to do it. Like, for instance, if I said, if I gave you a set of instructions for, if I gave you a set of instructions for cleaning and sewing up a wound, like let's imagine the nursing students. Maybe some of you are nursing students. I don't know. Like, imagine you are a nursing student, or imagine you know a nursing student. If you gave a nurse a set of instructions for how to clean and debride and sew up a wound, they have all the propositions. They can memorize that and have access to all the propositions involved with that procedure. But I would be very reluctant to say that they know how to do it until they have done it a few times, and they have done it successfully a few times, and they have that practical familiarity, until they have that acquaintance knowledge as well. There is an element of propositional knowledge and an element of acquaintance knowledge that goes into procedural knowledge. It is not reducible to either one. Like, just knowing the propositions obviously isn't enough, but just having been familiar with it isn't enough either. Like, I've had someone clean up a wound and and sew it up and stuff, and that doesn't mean I know how to do that. I'm familiar with it from the other side, but that doesn't mean I know how to do it, on the other end. I've had dental work. That doesn't mean I'm a dentist. So I have acquaintance knowledge with a root canal, but that doesn't mean I know how to do a root canal. Okay. So the 3 types of knowledge: propositional knowledge, acquaintance knowledge, and procedural knowledge. It's just an unfortunate coincidence that in English we use one word, know. I know 2 plus 2 equals 4. I know a guy named Alex. I know how to cook beef stew. We use that one word in 3 different ways for 3 different distinct concepts. And And that's just unfortunate. And the reason why we want to belabor this point right at the outset is so that we can clarify what we're asking when we ask the question, what is knowledge? What does it mean to know something? Well, the first thing we have to figure out is which kind of knowledge do we mean? Because the answer to what is knowledge is going to be very different when we're talking about procedural knowledge than it will be for when we're talking about acquaintance knowledge or propositional knowledge. Um, I can't answer those questions the same way. I'm going to have to take a different approach. Um, so when we ask, we're going to spend a big portion of the semester exploring what is knowledge, what does it mean to know something. So the first thing we have to do is determine, well, what do you mean by the word know? First of all, what kind of knowledge are you talking about? Um, so what we're gonna do going forward, for now at least, what we're gonna do is we're gonna focus on the very first one. We're gonna focus on propositional knowledge instead of acquaintance knowledge or procedural knowledge. And we're going to do that because propositional knowledge just at a first glance, it just seems a little easier to get your head around. It seems just a little bit easier to start talking about propositional knowledge than the other kinds of stuff. So we're gonna begin um, by we're going to begin by seeing if we can get clear on what propositional knowledge is, and that's what Williamson is starting with. Williamson is starting with propositional knowledge. All the people that we're going to be reading are starting with propositional knowledge. Um, so, okay, that's the preliminaries out of the way. We have started, we've narrowed down, we've already done some good work. We've narrowed down what we're going to be talking about in terms of which use of the word know we're trying to get at the heart of. So let's dig into the Williamson paper and what's going on there. I'm going to pause this for a second and get my water. Hang on a second. Okay, so got my water bottle. That's good. Come here. Come here. The cat's up here, and she doesn't want to be on camera, I guess. Anyway, but yeah. So now that we have in hand our concept of knowledge, the one that we're going to explore, what is knowledge? Oh, propositional knowledge is the one we want to know about. Now we can start to do our concept analysis. Okay, so and now we're getting into the substance of what Williamson is talking about with knowledge and belief. Okay, so ha 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 ha. So we've done our different uses of the word know. Now let's talk about believing. Um, this one is gonna get tricky because the word believe gets thrown around a lot in common language. The sort of casual language. The word believe is often used to mean the opposite of know. Um, like we talk about belief, you believe something when you can't know it. Um, when people talk about religion, oftentimes the they use the word believe in the sense they characterize belief as to have confidence in something without proof. Um, so in other words, it's kind of like believing is for when you don't know or when you can't know. Um, uh, that's not how we're going to be using the term exactly in this technical sense. It's related to how we use the term because we want to distinguish between believing and knowing. Believing and knowing are different, um, but as we're going to see, according to Williamson and a bunch of other philosophers too, um, believing is an element of knowing. Okay, so uh, we are going to want to say that what is it to believe something? What does it mean to believe something? Well, one way that we can think about believing, the way that we're going to be uh, using that word, uh, here, let me get this typed up. Okay, so we're gonna use the term to believe something is to give credence to a proposition. Okay, now I realize that's not like super helpful because give credence is maybe not, that's not a term you hear a lot, so that might not be like the most helpful thing for me to say, to give credence to. Um, why can't I make this work? Oh, there. No? Is that it? No? Stop that. Yeah, edit the damn text. You know what? Screw this. Okay. Um, it'll give it to me there. It's ridiculous. Okay. Ah, there, finally. Thank you. Okay, so to believe something is to give credence to a proposition. What do we mean by give credence? Uh, give credence just more or less means to think is true. So when I say I give credence to the proposition the Taco Bell on 11th Avenue is open 24 hours. That just means I think it's true. Um, I think it's true that the Taco Bell on 11th is 24 hours. I think it's true, which is to say I give credence to the proposition that Oklahoma City is the capital of Oklahoma, um, and so on and so forth. Okay. So believing is just about having a proposition in your head and thinking it's true. Okay, so far so good. Now, is it possible to have a proposition in your head that you don't think is true? Of course it is. I can conjure up the proposition Tulsa is the capital of Oklahoma City. I can imagine it, or if you want to put it a different way, I can think it. I can think, hey, Tulsa's the capital of Oklahoma City. But that's not, I don't give any credence to that. Um, and you might be thinking, well, that, why do what's that about? Like, why would I ever do that? But we do this all the time. Like, imagine you're trying to remember where you put your car keys. By the way, a disturbing percentage of my examples are going to involve trying to remember where I've put things that I need, like car keys. That's because I'm 50 and I have ADHD. So I have a lot of examples that involve not being able to find my car keys, or my socks, or various other things. That's life. Anyway, imagine I'm trying to find my car keys. Imagine you're trying to find your car keys. Huh. Imagine you're trying to find your car keys. And you're thinking, where did I leave my car keys? And you think, maybe I left them in the bedroom. Maybe I left them in the living room. Maybe I left them in the kitchen. In other words, you can conjure up a list of propositions about where you left your car keys. And then you can kind of sort through them and get rid of the ones that don't seem very likely. You're like, well, okay, probably not the kitchen. I haven't been in there today. And that's just be weird. Why would I have my car keys in the kitchen? You can kind of decide how much credence you give to it. A little, a lot, none, a bunch, things like that. We do this in science. We come up with a proposition um, like ice cream makes flowers grow better. And then we test it and we decide that, oh no, that was wrong. We should not give credence to that proposition. We should not think it's true that ice cream makes flowers grow better. Everybody loves ice cream except for flowers. Anyway, I have no idea why that was the example I came up with. Don't ask. You don't want to know why these things happen the way they do. Even I don't know. So okay. So there, you can think a proposition, you can have it in your head without giving credence to it. Philosophers call this entertaining a proposition. You can sort of bring it into your mind and go, huh. And they go, nah, I don't think that's true. Giving credence to a proposition is believing it. But that giving credence may come in different levels. You can believe something completely. You can believe it a little. You can believe it a lot. You can kind of believe it. Things like that. My spouse Morgan tells me that people like me. I kind of believe that. I don't think Morgan would lie to me, but I'm also like pretty hard on myself. So, anyway, I have trouble with that one. Anyway, okay. Pshaw, Morgan says. Pshaw. Cat, what the hell are you doing? Oh, I see. Alright. She's playing with one of her toys. Alright, so, okay, believing. Okay. Why am I talking about belief? What does this have to do with knowledge? Obviously, you can believe something without knowing it. You can believe things that are untrue. You can definitely believe things that are untrue. People have been doing it for most of history. Back in the day, and usually when people my age say back in the day, they mean the 80s or 90s. I'm talking about the Middle Ages. Back in the day, doctors believed that putting leeches on people to suck out their blood was a good medical treatment. They thought, you know what you need to do about this sickness? You need to put leeches. Leeches will cure you. That's a belief, a proposition. A good round of leeching will cure this person. That's a proposition. That is a sentence that could be true or false, and is probably false for almost any situation. Leeching is not going to be helpful. So, yeah, people definitely used to give credence to things like that, though. Educated people would be like, oh yeah, totally, that makes total sense. They totally believed it. So it's obvious that you can believe things that are false. Lots of people believe the earth is flat. It's not. And anyone who says so is an internet troll. Or the kind of person who believes internet trolls. There's a lot of people believe that NFTs were going to be a thing. Anyway, people believe weird shit. You can believe something that isn't true. But it's not possible to know something that isn't true. I mean, it seems obvious if you think about it for a minute. can I believe that Tulsa is the capital of Oklahoma? Sure, of course I can. If I'm not from Oklahoma and I don't live here and I just go by what I've seen in that Sylvester Stallone show, maybe I mistakenly believe Tulsa is the capital of Oklahoma, right? Because it's got they got a show about Tulsa and they don't have one about Oklahoma City. I don't know. Maybe I just believe that Tulsa's the capital of Oklahoma. Fine. Um, but you would think it was weird if I said, I know Tulsa's the capital of Oklahoma. That would obviously be wrong, right? I mean, that's not, I don't know that. Because it isn't. Um, like, what if someone accused you of committing a crime and you didn't? Like, of, they accuse you of, murdering the crown prince of Liechtenstein or something. Um, and the authorities haul you into the royal court and they say, I know you did it, except for they say it in a Liechtensteinian accent. I know you did it. I believe they speak German. Anyway, Morgan, Morgan is decided now they have to look this up. All right. Uh, yeah, they speak German. Yay. I'm so smart. Uh, Low German and Swiss German. Interesting. Okay, good to know. Where were we? Liechtenstein. Right. Um, they believe you assassinated the crown prince of Liechtenstein. You did not do this. You did not do this. They believe you did. And when the prosecutor says, I know you assassinated the crown prince, obviously the prosecutor's wrong, right? The prosecutor does not know that because you didn't do it. You can't know something that isn't true. You can believe it, you can't know it. Um, okay, so why am I telling you this? Well, because it's helping us narrow in on a couple of things. Already we're starting to make some traction. Um, First of all, we have established that you can believe something without knowing. That's not controversial, but truth plays an important role here. It seems like knowing something is just having a true, see, knowledge as TB, it's having a true belief. Or at least that's how it seems right now. That is the beginning of it. Knowing something is having a true belief about it. Okay. All right. So that's our start. To know something is to have a true belief. Okay. Let's review that for a second and make sure everything seems right. The true part seems right. I can't know that the earth is flat. I can't know that 2 plus 2 equals 5. I can't know that Tulsa is the capital of Oklahoma. None of those things are true. It's impossible to know them. It's possible to believe them. It's not possible to know them. And I definitely have to have a belief, I think. That's sure we got to think about that. We've made the distinction between merely entertaining a proposition and believing it. And that distinction is credence. How much do I think it's true? Um, let's imagine I entertain a proposition. Like, let's imagine I entertain a proposition like there is definitely intelligent life somewhere else in the universe. That is a proposition. It's a sentence, and it's a sentence of the kind that can be true or false. Because either there is intelligent life somewhere else in the universe other than Earth, or there isn't. Right? It's either true or it's false. Now, and this is what trips some people up. It may be impossible to prove one way or the other. Like, maybe there is intelligent life somewhere in the universe, but it's very, very far away from us, and we will never have the technology to get evidence of their existence. So, it may be that there is intelligent life in the universe, and that it is just impossible, and it will always be impossible to prove that this is the case. Okay. So, the fact is that it is still the kind of thing that can be true or false, and that there is a definitive answer to. Like, there definitely is intelligent life, or there isn't, even if we can never know which answer is correct. Here's an example I used for my humanities class. Let me see if I can make this a little more clear. About 10,000 years ago, roughly when agriculture was just getting off the ground in a really sustained way, about 10,000 years ago in the area that we would now call Israel, there was a civilization of people that flourished for several hundred years. They left behind artifacts. They left behind settlements. We've dug up their settlements. We've dug up their trade artifacts, their tools. We've got their garbage pits. So, we know how they lived, kind of what they ate and things like that. We've discovered their burial sites and so on and so forth. Their culture flourished for a while and then died out. And over the course of the period of their culture flourishing and dying out, there was an interesting change in their patterns of burial. In the early years of this culture, we call them the Natufian, Natufian, the Natufian culture. That's not what they call themselves. We'll get into that in a second. We call them the Natufian culture. In the early years of the flourishing of the Natufian culture, they buried their dead in a very shallow graves without any adornment, without any kind of special preparation. They just stuck them underground and forgot about them. Later on, sort of as their culture reached its apex, they started burying their dead deeper in the ground, but the more interesting thing that they did was they started burying their dead with tools and jewelry and money and food. Now, this was not like a super rich culture. I mean, they were doing pretty well. They had some materials because they were an agricultural society, and they had definitely made an improvement over their pastoralist and hunter-gatherer neighbors, but we're not talking about a period of great material abundance. So putting useful items like food and tools and jewelry and things like that, putting useful items in the ground with a dead person represents a certain amount of sacrifice of wealth, right? You're giving up something that matters to put it in the ground with a dead person. So this was obviously important to the Natufians, what they were doing. They did this out of some strongly held set of beliefs. It mattered to them enough. Whatever they believed about death and what happens after death and what you're supposed to do with dead people, whatever they believed about that, it was important enough that they were willing to make notable material sacrifices for the sake of those beliefs. Now, I promise you, I'm going to connect this back. The thing that connects this back to what we've been talking about is this. There is a fact of the matter about what the Natufians believe. The Natufians really existed. They obviously had beliefs. Like you could say, the Natufians, we think maybe the Natufians believed that there was life after death and people would use these items after they died. Maybe they did. And there's a fact of the matter about that. Either the Natufians did believe that there was life after death and people would use these tools and items after they died, or they did not believe that. But guess what? 10,000 years ago was about 5,000 years before anything on the whole planet was ever written down. Writing had not been invented and would not be invented for another 5,000 years. So whatever the Natufians believed about what happens when you die, we will never know. It's not just that we don't know now. Like, oh, well, we don't know right now. No, we're never gonna know. Not ever. Not in 1,000 years, not in 1,000,000 years, not in 100 million years. We're never, ever, 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 ever getting back together. Wait, that's Taylor Swift. We're never gonna know. You can see how I get confused. We're never gonna know what the Natufians believed about the afterlife. Because they're all gone, and there was no writing when they did exist. They couldn't record their beliefs. All we have left are some corpses and some grave goods, some stuff they put in the graves with people, and that's it. We can make guesses, but we cannot know for sure. So, there are things in the world that are either true or false. There are things that there's a fact of the matter about. There is a fact of the matter about whether there is intelligent life in the universe other than on Earth. There is a fact of the matter about what the Natufians believed what happens to you after you die. We do not have the ability to know those things. In the first case, with the intelligent life in the universe, we don't have the ability to know right now, and we might not ever have it. In the case with the Natufians, we will never have the ability to know that. That doesn't mean that there's no true or false. Like that, you gotta understand the distinction. I can't know the truth or falsity of this is distinct from there is no truth or falsity of this. Those are distinct propositions. One of them is about the epistemic state of the universe, our epistemic limits, and one of them is about the ontology, about the facts of the matter of existence. Okay. Alright, why am I telling you this? Okay. This kicks into the question of whether you can know without believing. So, imagine I am going through a list of yes or no propositions. Like, is there intelligent life in the universe other than on Earth? Imagine that I entertain the proposition that yes, there is intelligent life in the universe. Hang on a second. I'm experiencing an error. Let me pause this. All right, where was I? Okay. Right. So imagine that I'm just entertaining the proposition there is intelligent life in the universe. I'm thinking about it. Someone said to me, imagine that it's true that there's intelligent life in the universe. And I say, all right, I'll imagine that. If it happens to be really true that there is intelligent life in the universe, I have the proposition in my head. I don't believe it because I'm not giving any credence to it. I'm remaining neutral. I'm saying, I don't know. I'm not believing it. I'm not disbelieving it. I'm just remaining neutral. I have the proposition in my head, though, the proposition without belief. And if it so happens that the proposition is true, would you say, I know that there is intelligent life in the universe while I entertain the proposition? Well, obviously not. I mean, I feel like that is pretty obvious. Clearly not. Like, if you, imagine that I just go through, a list, like for, imagine I'm talking about you, whoever's watching this video, imagine we're talking about you, and I just start entertaining the proposition, your birthday is January 1st, your birthday is January 2nd, your birthday is January 3rd. Imagine I just entertain each one of those propositions in order throughout the whole year. I'm not giving any of them credence. I don't commit to believing that any of them is true. I just think it. Well, maybe their birthday is that. Obviously, I don't know when your birthday is when I happen to hit the one that is actually your birthday. In order to know something, you definitely have to be right. It has to be true, but it also has to be a belief. It's not just entertaining the proposition. It's not just a matter of having the proposition in your head. You have to give credence to that proposition. So while we have established that you can believe something without knowing it, because I can believe things that are false, so I can believe things without knowing them. I cannot know something without believing. A belief is necessarily a part of knowledge. Okay, so this gives us, so far, a two-part structure for knowledge. It is true belief. It is a belief that is true. Okay, so far, so good. A two-part structure for knowledge. Okay. Alright, so, what is believing? Okay, believing, of course, we mentioned that believing is to give credence to a proposition. Okay. Do I want to talk about that? Okay. I will. I'll talk about that. Why should under what circumstances do I give credence to propositions? When do I think a proposition is true? Well, most basically, we tend to say that you think a proposition is true when you have evidence for it. when you were given reasons, good reasons to believe it. I don't want to get too deep into this because this is part of the next reading, and we're already running long on this one anyway. But let me give you a couple of sort of examples that will show us where we need to go next. You can imagine that there are good reasons to give credence to something, but there are also bad ones. Like, for instance, let's say I wanted to know the average height of all the people in this class. If if we all showed up in the same place at the same time, like it were a physical class rather than an online class. If we all showed up together and someone took a tape measure and measured all of us and wrote it down and then did the math at it and came up with an average, and that average said, like, I don't know, like 68 inches or something, that's calculate, like that's, that would be a good reason to believe, that is a good reason to give credence to the proposition the average height of the class is calculated. Right? I would have been given evidence of that, right? Now, what if what if I thought, oh, the average height of the class is 5'8"? We just talked about this example. What if I was just going through different heights and entertaining the proposition? The average height is 5'7". The average height is 5'8". The average height is 5'9". Well, obviously that's not believing. That's just entertaining. Okay, fine. But what if I was given, like, a shitty reason to believe this? What if I gave my credence to that belief, or to that proposition? So I did believe. Like, I'm not just entertaining the proposition. I do believe the proposition is true. I'm giving my credence to the proposition. But what if I did it for a bad reason? Like, what if as a joke, someone in IT installed something in Blackboard so that when I pull up my Blackboard site for this class, it says, here's how many students you have, and their average height is this. And someone in IT just made up like a little random number generator that would feed me like a completely made up average height. And it's just a joke, right? Because they haven't actually measured you. They don't actually have that data. It's just there to, as a little a humor thing. But I don't know that. Like, I'm not aware of that. I open up Blackboard and I see, oh, I've got 23 students, and most of them have never taken the Glossy class, and their average height is 5'8". Oh, okay, weird. Bit of knowledge, sure. Yeah, I don't know that. I just believe it. I believe it because I believe everything Blackboard tells me, because I just do. Which is a terrible reason to believe something. Okay, so imagine I believe it. Do I know it? Well, first of all, it would have to be correct. So let's say that it is. Let's say the average height of the class is 5'8". And Blackboard's little jokey random height generator bullshit thing spit out the number 5'8" for this class, not because your average height is 5'8", but just at random. It just so happened to be correct. It just so happened to be right. Do I know that the average height is 5'8"? My inclination would be no, I don't. My inclination would say no, I don't know. I got lucky. I don't get any. There's no. It's just pure luck that I got the right proposition in my head and gave credence to it. The fact that I got that proposition and the fact that I gave credence to it are not related in a causal fashion to the fact that the average height actually is 5'8". That was a terrible example. Let me see if I can think of a better one. Okay. Imagine, this is still going to be stupid, don't get me wrong, but maybe it's going to be a more clear example. Imagine I was raised in a cult. Morgan's already like, what? Imagine I was raised in a cult. Could be. My parents were ABBA fans, so imagine I was imagine I was raised in a cult. And because of my traumatic and upsetting background with a cult, I absolutely distrust any man wearing sandals. If I see a man wearing sandals, I think that person is evil. It's just deeply ingrained into my soul. A man wearing sandals, ooh, bad dude, bad person. So, a guest speaker comes to campus, and we go as a class to see him, and he wrote some book or something, and we're going to see him, and we get there, and he's wearing sandals, and I freak out, and I say, "Oh my God, don't trust that man. He's wearing sandals. Don't trust him. That means he's a bad person." And it so happens that he is a bad person. That he's like a murderer on the run who changed his name and is hiding out and whatever. But this has nothing to do with the sandals. Right? He just likes to wear sandals because they're comfortable. And people's feet should be free. Got nothing to do with him being a bad person. So I had a belief. There's a proposition. This man is a bad person. I give full credence to this proposition. I genuinely believe he's a bad person. And he is, and it's a true belief. So I have the belief, and it's a true belief. But it still doesn't seem like I know that he's a bad person. Because I just don't have that belief for the right reason. I have the belief in a weird kind of way that has nothing to do with the actual circumstances. What that shows us is that the true belief model, that knowledge requires truth, you can't know anything false, that was correct. And you must have a belief before you can have knowledge. That one's also correct. So in other words, there must be a proposition, so a claim about the world, like this man is a bad man. The claim, you must give credence to the claim. I must actually believe this man is a bad man. And the claim must be correct. In other words, I give credence, and I am giving credence correctly. This man is a bad man. But there's a missing element. There's something else we haven't covered. True belief is necessary for knowledge, but it is not enough for knowledge. The necessary factor that we are missing is something that links my credence to the truth of the proposition. In other words, the proposition is true. This man is a bad man. That's an actual fact about the world. And I believe this man is a bad man. But there must be something that connects those in the right way. In other words, I must give my credence to the proposition because of the truth of the proposition, not for some other weird-ass reason. I can't just give my credence to the belief that this man is a bad man because I just think that's true of everybody wearing sandals. That doesn't explain my credence in the right way for me to actually know that he's bad. Philosophers, epistemologists call this justification. So what I need a belief. I need that belief to be true, and I need to be justified in that belief. I need for my credence giving of that belief to be causally related, to be justified by the actual truth of the belief. So in other words, like here's an example of that. Imagine, well, the height example thing. The reason, if in the original example, the reason I believed that the average height of the class was 5'8" is because I got to see all of you in person. I got to measure you all with measuring tape. I wrote down the numbers. I did the math on the numbers, and I came up with 5'8". That connects in a logical fashion. That connects the actual facts, the actual true facts in the universe, with the reason why I believe those facts. With my credence giving to the proposition, those two are connected in a way that we will call justified. I have justification for my belief. Whereas with the sandals guy, I'm not justified in believing that he is a bad dude, even though he is. It's just like if I say, well, I think it's going to be hot this weekend. And you're like, oh, wow, why do you think that? And I say, my psychic told me. If I think it's going to be hot this weekend because my psychic told me, I'm not justified in believing that, even though it's definitely going to be hot this weekend. Like, even if it turns out to be hot this weekend, I don't have a good reason to believe that. Just because my psychic told me. That's a bad reason. Okay. Alright, so, what is knowledge? Well, we've narrowed that down to what is propositional knowledge. We get that. We sort of determined that knowledge has to involve belief at a very basic level. A belief has to sort of be the most elementary aspect of knowledge. And that knowledge, to know something, the belief has to be true. It has to be correct. You have to have a true belief. Now, it seems like there's another element, justification, and you might say, well, what exactly does that consist of? And I'm going to go, aha, that's the hard part. The true belief part turns out to be the easy bit. Just figuring out justification is going to take us the rest of the semester. So there's only a couple of more things left to say on the Williamson paper. First of all, it seems like knowledge is a success term. And what we mean by that is when we say knowledge is a success term, knowing something is fundamentally about doing something correct with your mental states. Knowing something means you've done something right in terms of how you're relating to the rest of the universe. You have correctly assessed the data, you have correctly assessed the evidence, and established sort of the connection between the actual situation in the universe and your mental states. Because, like, for instance, it's possible to fail to know something simply because you lack the skills. Um, Show me an advanced calculus problem. Show me like an advanced problem in calculus, and you're like, well, what is the answer to this? Or give me multiple choice. Like show me an advanced calculus problem and then show me three possible answers. I will not know which of those three is the right answer. I might pick one out at random, and that might be the right answer, but I won't know it because I won't be able to establish. I won't be able to look at like the situation, the facts on the ground, and give my credence to one of them in a justified fashion. I won't be able to look and go, oh, answer number 2 is correct. Why do you think that? I don't fucking know. Right? That's not gonna. That's where I'm gonna be. I'm not gonna know. So that I'm going to be stuck like that because I don't have the skills. I don't have the expertise to figure that out. So knowledge is a success term. To know something is to be able to look at the evidence and give credence to the proposition that actually describes the evidence, and to give credence for the right reason. To not just be like, oh, well, why do you believe that? Oh, my psychic told me. No, that's a terrible reason. If you're doing that, you're failing at life. Okay, so knowledge is a success term. Belief is the most basic element of knowledge. Belief must come first. Belief is the sort of it's a belief first kind of view of knowledge. How to put that in a different way? The belief is the building block upon. We don't analyze something as knowledge until we think about the belief that you have first. Getting a belief is what happens sort of in the most well. Here's a good way of looking at it. Have you ever had? And I'm pretty sure most of you will say yes. Have you ever had a moment where you saw something or thought you saw something, and you just had to do a double take? You're like, what? Hang on a minute. It's slowing down on me again. Let me see if I can fix that. Okay. So imagine. I lost my train of thought on the example I was going to use. So annoying. Oh yeah. Imagine a situation where you've had to do a double take. Where you're like, did I see what I think I saw? Like I see something moving out of the corner of my eye. I'm like, oh my god, was that a dog just run by? Or something like that. The first thing that happens is you get a sensory impression, and you form a proposition in your mind. A dog just ran by, based on that sensory impression. Um, and then you have to like do some evaluation to figure out whether you give credence to that, whether you believe it. Um, and this is the sort of basically you go from an impression to a proposition to a belief. And if that belief turns out to be a good one, you've got knowledge. But you can't, the belief has to be at the center of the analysis. You have to talk about the belief before you can talk about the knowledge. Does that make sense? Why am I asking? It's not, you can't, okay. Morgan says it makes sense, so anyway, alright. Okay, and the last thing, and I'll get out of here. Knowledge has rationality. Okay, as I said, the justification element, the element that we add to true belief to get knowledge, is that we have to believe for the right reason. The giving credence must be connected to the actual true fact of the situation. Those must be hooked up in the right way. Like I said, sometimes this will involve basic skills that everyone has, like basic observational powers, and sometimes it will involve specialized skills. Looking at a calculus problem and knowing the right answer is not something everyone can do. It's something that people with training in advanced math can do, but not everyone can. Okay, that's fine. But presumably, if I can truthfully say, I know something, then anyone else who is similarly situated to me would be irrational if they claimed not to know the same thing given the same evidence. That one's a little obscure. So I'm gonna give it like one passive explanation, and then I'll stow it, and we'll come back to it later in this semester. But let's say that I say I know that Oklahoma City is the capital of Oklahoma. Now, once I've said that, anyone listening to me who thinks that I'm not just ignorant now knows that also. You see what I mean? Because I could not say I know that. Like if I say I think Oklahoma City is the capital of Oklahoma, that doesn't put any kind of burden on you. I'm not claiming any special access to truth. I'm just telling you about what propositions I have in my head. I think Oklahoma City is the capital of Oklahoma. I'm just telling you that I'm entertaining a proposition. That's it. But if I say I know Oklahoma City is the capital of Oklahoma, because remember what knowledge requires. It not only requires having the proposition in your head, it requires that you think the proposition is true and that the proposition actually be true. So when I say I know that Oklahoma City is the capital of Oklahoma, I am telling you that I think this is true and that I think I have good reasons for thinking it's true. So if I really know that, then you should know it too once you hear me say it. You can't then say, well, I don't know. Like she knows it, but I don't know that. Because why wouldn't you? unless my knowing it does not constitute a good reason to think it's true. Rather, sorry, unless my thinking it's true does not constitute a good reason for you to think it's true, if I know it and say I know it, you should know it. In other words, knowledge can set up a standard of rationality that for if a truly rational knower knows something, if a truly rational agent knows something and they actually know it, then for other people to be rational, they must also know it if they are in the same position. Now, the if they are in the same position part does a lot of work. Because, for instance, a math professor can look at a calculus problem and know which answer is correct, and that does not mean that I will necessarily know that because I don't have the same skills. But it may be that once that math professor tells me the correct answer, I know it because they're saying which answer is correct is enough reason for me to believe it. Right? It's enough reason for me to think that that is true. Because they're a math professor. Right? Why wouldn't I think it's true? If the math professor says this is the correct answer, I have enough reason to think that's the correct answer. So you know what? Now I know that's the correct answer. Ta-da! Knowledge can set up, a claim to knowledge can set up a standard of rationality that demands other people fall in line with it on pain of irrationality. Okay. This video has gone longer than I intended, but I feel like we've covered the Williamson reading in adequate detail. That is enough for right now. Go forth, be well, have fun. And I will see you soon, I think. Okay, bye.